Good evening, my name is Dylan Harris. Now I'll be going over chapter 1 through 3 and doing a presentation over our book for learning by doing. So, the title of chapter 1 is A Guide to Action for Professional Learning Communities at Work. The first section of chapter 1 is titled, What are Professional Learning Communities? On page 38, Mike Schmoker states that clarity precedes competence. And he states that a PLC process is not a program. A PLC is designed to be implemented by staff and is a never-ending process of schooling students in a way that has a profound impact on the structure and culture of the school. PLC is a larger organization and not the individual teams that comprise it. The school is a PLC, but the various collaborative teams are the building blocks of the PLC. The next section states 3 big ideas that drive the work of a PLC. The first idea is a focus on learning. The fundamental purpose of the school is to ensure that all students learn at high levels. The next idea is a collaborative culture and collective responsibility. Educators must work collaboratively and take collective responsibility for the success of each student and to ensure that all students learn at high levels. And the third big idea is a results orientation. Members of a PLC must recognize that success is based on evidence rather than good intentions. So you must obtain evidence of student learning for your objective to be deemed successful. So you have to be able to visualize it, be able to present it, and be able to see the data. So the next section of chapter 1 is called The PLC Process Requires a Culture that is Simultaneously Loose and Tight. The meaning for loose is what to teach, the sequence and pacing of content, the assessments used to monitor student learning, the criteria that they will use in assessing the quality of student work, the norms for their team, and the goals of their team. But kind of a more tight PLC process, you can see you're narrowing down everything and making sure there's no room for error. Educators work collaboratively rather than in isolation, take collective responsibility for student learning, and clarify the commitments they make to each other about how they will work together. The fundamental structure of the school becomes a collaborative team in which members work interdependently to achieve common goals for which all members are mutually accountable. The team establishes a guaranteed and available curriculum unit by unit so that all students have access to the same knowledge and skills regardless of the teacher who is teaching them. The team develops common and formative assessments. The school has created a system of interventions and extensions to ensure students who are struggling have time for that learning and be able to just make sure that every student has the time to be on track. And the team uses evidence of student learning to inform and improve individual and collective practice. Next section of chapter 1, it says the importance of effective communication. As a leader in any capacity, you must be consistent with your words and your actions. When leaders are inconsistent, their actions overwhelm all other forms of communication and therefore is ineffective. So effective leaders let their team members know what is expected of them by what they consistently pay attention to. The next section of chapter 1 says, why don't we apply what we know? And so a quote on page 50, it says, why does the knowledge of what needs to be done seem to consistently fail in result and in actions or behaviors that are consistent? So the disconnect between knowledge and action is a big problem where we understand what we expect and what should be done and we know everything that we could probably do, but then we make all these excuses as to why we can't do it. Maybe there's not enough resources, maybe we think it's somebody else's responsibility instead of just actually taking the time to accomplish what we know needs to be done on our own or with our collaborative teams. So vocabulary and consistent understanding of key PLC processes is very important in order to accomplish it. So that's the end of chapter 1. Chapter 2 states defining a clear and compelling purpose as the title. Part 1 of Chapter 2 gives us a case study clarifying our purpose. So Siegfried and Roy Middle School Principal Cynthia Dion she was trying to create mission statements, and she went ahead, as she had had some PLC training, she took it upon herself to make a mission statement. But then her staff members did not agree with the mission statement. They wanted to create their own, and then it became a big debate where people voted, and then it ended up going ahead and choosing an opposite statement from what the principal had created. And then in the long run, she realized that they may have made their own mission statement, but nobody really did anything with it that helped to make sure that that mission statement was accomplished. So therefore, that PLC model completely failed because there was no consensus, there was no cohesiveness. Basically, there was just, I'm going to try something, and when it failed, I just walk away from it and see that nothing happened. So you have to make sure that maybe you don't present things that require a team collaboration to an entire party of, say, your entire school district or your entire school. Maybe present those things in smaller groups and have people collaborate, or have your coalition group and then go to the other group and start doing some kind of presentation over it, having a discussion. So chapter 2 part 2 said, here's how we have our struggles building consensus process. For her, failing to steer the conversation away from a debate. You need to create a guiding coalition, which or a leadership team before having these conversations. Maybe, like I said, have a small setting instead of a large setting. Build shared knowledge. People have to learn together if you expect them to make decisions. So she had this PLC training, but her entire staff did not. So therefore, there was no collaboration because only one person understood what they were going for and everybody else had their own opinion of what they were going for. So you have to understand arriving at a consensus on consensus. So all points have been actively solicited. So you have to understand what a consensus is. So all points have been actively solicited, and the will of the group is evident to those who are against it. So even though there may be people who are opposed, they understand what they're trying to get to. Part 3 said, here's why. Said shared sense of purpose is key to high performance. The foundation of a PLC rests on the 4 pillars of mission, vision, values, and goals. Mission is why do we exist, which is a fundamental purpose. Our vision is what must our school become to accomplish our purpose, so compelling future. Values is how must we behave to achieve our vision, collective commitments. Goals is how will we mark our progress, which is targets and timelines. Chapter 2, Part 4 says assessing your place on the PLC. So as building leader, it is our responsibility to help our staff build shared knowledge of where we are at in our PLC process and understand how to build a solid foundation. Part 5 says tips for moving forward, building foundation of a PLC. So move quickly to action. The only way to make progress is to change. Build shared knowledge when asking people to make a decision, so that you have to be able to collaborate and study together if you hope to make a decision as a group. Use the foundation to assist in day-to-day decisions, so make sure that what you are expecting is the way that you drive your decision making when it comes to your teaching or your teacher's teaching. You have to go back to what you are expecting from your PLC meetings. Use the foundation to identify existing practices that should be eliminated. So if something's not working, collaborate with your team, get rid of it. Because if it's not working, then why is it still part of the PLC? Translate the vision of your school into a teachable point of view. So make sure that that vision is coherent and you understand what you're trying to get to. So make sure that your vision points to the picture that you hope to accomplish. Write value statements as behaviors rather than beliefs. So they must be written in a way that they're commitments. Focus on yourself rather than others. Recognize that the process is non-linear, so you don't have to start in a certain pathway. You may kind of branch out to different pathways. And remember that it is what you do that matters and not what you call it. So who cares about titles and labels for the PLC? It's all about what are you accomplishing and how are you about to accomplish that. Part 6 says questions to guide the work of your professional learning community. So we got how we created a guiding coalition for implementing and sustaining PLCs. Do we understand how to reach consensus? Do we build shared knowledge? Do we have meaningful conversations? Do we allow decisions to discussion of differences? Do we understand the purpose? How we establish conditions? And so on. Part 7 just says dangerous detours and seductive shortcuts. Educators must align practices to promote learning, and a great administrator makes sure that his or her staff members align with their vision tremendously so that when an outsider visits the campus, they understand the vision without even reading it. Okay, so finally, Chapter 3, building the collaborative culture of professional learning community. Part 1 says the case study. Here we have Principal Joe McDonald of Nemo Middle School. So exceptional accomplishment in the layout of his PLC with his staff, but his student achievement never changed. And as it turned out, his teachers were not necessarily collaborating over student learning. They were more collaborating over behavior issues and just common student issues that they had been noticing other than actual student learning, core subjects or whatever subjects there may have been. And it was because of the way the teams were grouped together. The only thing that they really had in common were the students. They didn't have their subjects in common. So that led to some problems because the only thing that they could really talk about and collaborate on was behavior, or have you noticed this student has been doing this or that, or have you noticed that this student is having these issues, and nothing that had to do with improvement of learning. So here's some of our hows. We got shared classes, bank time, parallel scheduling, clarifying key terms in PLC, creating meaningful teams. So whether that's them being all the same core subject, vertical teams, grade level, electronic teams, whatever you need to do to accomplish your goal. So how we know if each student has learned it, how we respond when some students do not learn it. Part 3 is here's our why. It says bring people together in an organized way to achieve a collective purpose that cannot be accomplished by working alone. So the whole point of a PLC is collaboration. You can't expect to just take it all upon yourself and then have everything be solved. You need the feedback from others. You need that collaboration if you hope to accomplish the goals that you're looking forward to. So Chapter 3, Part 4 says assessing your place on the PLC. So why should we use teams as our basic structure? Why should we collaborate? And why should we create norms? So with creating norms, I mean, if you don't have norms, then you're not understanding what is always expected of you. What is my part in this PLC? What am I expected to do? What is my title? What am I supposed to be working on each and every day? Or in the times that we're not meeting, what should I have ready for when our next meeting? And obviously we should collaborate. Even as a building administrator, you should collaborate with your teachers just so you understand what is expected and what do you need, what do the teachers need from you, or what do you need the teachers to do to accomplish the overall achievement of higher student learning. Part 5 says tips for moving forward, building collaborative culture through high-performing teams. So you need to make sure that you are creating meaningful teams as an administrator. And then make sure that you celebrate those teams who accomplish what they're looking for. And expand the knowledge base available to teams. Lead by example. Provide for cross-team collaboration if necessary. And we know these things can be difficult, but sometimes it is necessary. So Part 6, questions to guide the work of your professional learning community. Here's a list of those questions that could be monitored. So how do you monitor the team progression? A lot of this is obviously data-based, so we must make sure that our teachers understand that we are looking for data that shows achievement, not just word of mouth. We need something, a hard copy or obviously a digital copy, but we need evidence. So dangerous shortcuts, educators are not a team unless they are working together to achieve the same goal, and team members must collaborate on the right material if they hope to see the expected results that they're looking for. And thank you for your time. Here are my references, and then here is my email if for some reason you need to reach out to me.